Hey yo YouTube, I am here to continue talking about my D&D game where we left off last time. We just raided the lab and DM starts off asking like what do we do? Nina's player says that she's they're wrapping up and securing the bodies. And then I end up saying what I said I was going to do last video, where I looked at the unfound door and saw that the Wemmicks weren't there and asked where they were. Um, the DM actually didn't remember that Nina left them outside. Like, he started putting the Wemmicks back in the door, and I'm like, "You're remembering this wrong." And at first he didn't seem to be sure what I was talking about, but then like when I explained it more, uh, yeah, he was like, "Oh yeah, that's right, they were outside." So again, like I said, I asked the elf because, like I said last week, I didn't remember who was looking through the door. I thought it was the sorcerer. Apparently, it was one of the elves because that's who the sorcerer introduced us to get to the unfound door. But I asked him where the Wemmick is, and I guess he tells us that they're outside. And I do what I said because we're all right on the map. Is right next to me. I tell him to dimension door me outside. Uh, and then I also say the same thing that I said last week, was that I have Johan say to Morgana and Basker. He says Blackstone and Furface because that's what he calls them, and then he starts rushing the next door, or rushing upstairs to the next room. And Onyx Gar appears outside. I say I do like a roar to them. They do them back. I tell them I go over and I hook the hurt Wemmick's armpit, and they go into the unfound door. Afterwards, I turn around and look back. As a player, I'm expecting that I'm going to be able to see through everyone's unfound door, but apparently I was only able to see through mine. Like, whenever I looked back, all I saw was outside. I was expecting that I was going to be able to go through it and then come back through it through Johan's or Nina's. So when the DM tells me that I just see outside, I tell him, well, then I just wait. Um, so then the DM gets back to you, what Johan, and like he asks again, like, well, what did he didn't really catch it. Like, what did he say he did? And I say, uh, Blackstone Furface, and I start rushing the next room. Uh, he tells Apollo, like, you see the dwarfs and Basker run past you, and then like Apollo says, like, what are you doing? And he says, clear the next room, and he starts to answer me, and I say, I'm still moving. I don't wait to listen. So the DM sets the map that we saw, or that I saw last week, uh, where we saw the pig people. But the thing is, I didn't remember that there were also gorilla people with rifles in there. If I would have remembered that, I would have known that they would have probably been in a fight in this room, where before I thought there was a good chance that the pigs might stand down. So the DM asked Johan to roll initiative. He ends up being top of initiative in the room at the moment. So he ends up getting to go first. The DM asks me, "What do I do?" I tell him I look the gorilla person right in the eye, and I pull out my shield and activate my sword to merciful, which means if I take it's non-lethal damage. So the gorilla ends up going. The gorilla ends up attacking me. At first, the DM says that it hits, and then I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because with my shield up, my AC's 40. Um, Again, I made Johan a tank build, and the three of them that are in the room right now are slightly higher level than the rest of the Brotherhood of the Lion. Um, so he ends up missing it. I'm like, yeah, I knew what I was doing. And whenever whenever Johan starts rushing the room, the elf in the unfound door tells Onyxgar that he could kind of see uh, everyone's door, how it's kind of split for him, and he sees that the dwarf is rushing the room. So I have him and Rawride step out of the step out of the unfound door, and again have Rawride dimension door me, but cause like everyone's, cause like there's two hallways that lead into this room we're going into, and everyone's going this way. So I tell the DM I want to be teleported into the other side, still into the laboratory and not into this room, but I want to be on that side of the hall. And like downstairs, the first like round or two, Nina still sticks to securing the two or three people we have knocked out, which is funny because I mentioned on the map last week how it appeared like another one was knocked out, and I at the start of this session, I kind of mentioned because like the DM says how this person's knocked out, and I say it kind of looks like the one by Nina's knocked out too, and at first they're like, no, no, they're not, and then they look at it and they're like, oh, wait a minute, yeah, it does, and then like they kind of break it because like. Nina does one spell to the kangaroo, which makes him like crinkle up, and then she does another spell to the scientist guy or the hazmat suit, and it does something where it like disconnects them. The DM said that it reminded him of a spell that he saw in some show, so that's why he remembered it. I remembered that Nina used that spell. Uh, so then I was like, yeah, dude, if I didn't notice that that icon was on that person, like y'all wouldn't even remember. And like I said, they spend a few rounds wrapping them up, and then around the second, third round is where DM is like, all right, you should be done doing that. Like, what do you do? And then that's when they start heading upstairs, and around the same time, the same round is when he puts Onyx Guard and Rawrite on the other side of the hall of the map. Um, for the most part, like I usually say, like the battle goes pretty well. About halfway through it, down the third hallway that we never went through, like a big gorilla person ends up coming through that. So we're fighting like maybe four gorillas, and then only like a couple of those pig people. I want to say there's also about three or four of those also, and I want to say only about 4 or 5 rounds in, Nina ends up doing the taking control. She actually takes control of two of the gorillas because apparently she's powerful enough now where she could do two instead of one. Truth be told, I hate that spell. I can't stand it. I think it's so cheap. Uh, it just puts a stop to some of our fights. And truth be told, I like fighting. Uh, and also in the back of my head now, I think that Nina's gonna have some kind of guerrilla follower. Like I won't be surprised if she puts another point into leadership now, and uh, a good chunk of these people end up being her followers. Uh, which Johan actually put one in leadership recently, but he doesn't want a cohort. He's just gonna have, because initially I wanted to put the Lollipop Guild kid as a cohort, but I never wanted to use him. So the DM was like, well, because like he already had a plan on getting a mining group together. So he's like, since you got that, you might as well just put some in leader or feet in leader. But like I said, I remember like I was hoping that the person Johan was fighting would drop in the next round or two, and then I was gonna make my way to the big one and do a dwarven stance. But like I said, Nina took control of him, and then once when Nina took control of him, he started ordering the other ones to stand down. One of the pigs, whenever it started seeming like they were on the losing side, like he stops fighting and he goes runs into the corner. And on top of that, the first one that Johann fought, he ended up knocking out with his merciful. Um, so there ends up being like a handful of people alive, and then like Nina starts ordering the gorilla people to like search the place, stuff like that, if I remember right. And also, like at one point, Basker starts ripping at the cages, like whenever he gets a kill and has an extra attack or something, he does it on the fence that he's next to and ends up making a hole. The thing never comes out, but that's what he does. Uh, and then when the fight's over, we ask the gorillas, like, how do we open these cages? And they tell us that we have to go downstairs and you have to open them because they're electrically closed. Uh, so like Becca and Nina and I want to say some of the gorillas end up going downstairs. Actually, I don't think Nina goes downstairs at first. I know at one point Rawright's down there with her and like he asked her if like I said, same thing last video, where he asked her if at some point they could go looting in the glooms before they leave this world, and she says that we really don't need to do that. Like she got something planned. And truth be told, it's not safe to go looting through the glooms anyways, because like sure you could get through the wall, but then after that you can't pick nothing up, so you're gonna have to come out of it and grab whatever you want and then go back in. And there's risk of falling through like Onyx and Onyx Scar and Kotaku did before, almost did before. Johan ends up searching the next room, the room that the big gorilla came out of, and it was just it's like seemed like a big den for the gorillas. But there was like furniture and like a cake of beer. So immediately Johan goes up to Nina and it's like, "Hey, we found in the next room. There's a keg of beer and there's furniture big enough for a Totor and Tam." Which he called Nina's Three Goons, which I don't think she caught it. The DM, I believe, caught it. Uh, and at first, Nina's kind of like, "Yeah, okay." And I'm like, "Well, you could do something with them." And I was like, "You could put them inside Nina's tent or Beck's tent or Beck's bag or something." And she's like, "Well, they're not my bags." And eventually he's like, "Oh, bother, let them stand then." And I want to say before we get the gates open, the elf behind the unfound door tells us that the jackals and the other ones that kind of look like badgers or something, that those are both endangered species, and we should take them with us through the unfound door. Because I actually thought this was a funny scene. Because Basker could talk, but he's yet to talk around the Brotherhood of the Lion, and I have Basker come up behind Nina, and Nina looks at Ivan and is like, "Hey, go tell ask those dog things what their plan is." And Basker's behind them, and I hear this. I'm like, "They're dogs." Like, what do you mean what their plan is? And Nina's like, "Well, they were just talking to Ivan," and I was like, "Most dogs could do that." And she doesn't appear to realize that there's a dog behind her talking. Truth be told, I think it's just her player forgot or didn't know that Nina didn't know. And Ivan goes up and talks to the dingo looking ones, and pretty much they just say they want to get set free, open up the doors, and they'll go out on their own. Um, and I want to say that's when the elf tells us that we can't let the other two go. We should bring them through the door to our time and give them sanctuary. And like when we get the doors open, the little dog heads that are in the back wall that Basker ripped the thing for one of them, like they never come out. And like Ivan is like, "Why don't you go talk to him, Basker?" And Basker's like, "They would have more in common with you because like they're dog heads," but he walks up and he does it anyways. and he kind of more talks like a dog to them, where they kind of talk in just a few sentences, uh, where like they kind of, I think at first they say stuff like they're scared or things like that. I don't remember what their exact wording at the beginning was, but eventually Basker is like, Basker is master, is Basker, or he's like, I'm the master, and he says like, I'm strong, I bite the cage, and they're like, you're pack leader, or he might even say I'm pack leader. At first he looks at Johan, and then they're like, Two Legs is pack leader, and they're like, Two Legs always pack leader, and he's like, no, Two Legs is my companion. Um, he ends up rolling a diplomatic roll, doesn't roll that high, and Nina ends up giving her inspiration, which brings it to average enough just to get him out. And I want to say whenever Rawright was talking to Beck, like she's downloading everything on her laptop, like all the information. And then sometime after that, that's when Nina and Beck go down there and like they destroy everything with like fire or something, or fire spells or something. I don't remember. So I guess after that, we take all our survivors and all the animals through the unfound door. I guess we ended up making a report to the elves. Um, Beck does like mass healing with their healing bugs, and like they tell her that the pig people are dying, which to a point we already knew that they only last a couple months. Um, but the one that ran away, apparently he looks more human, and and Ivan and Paulo, since they're gulags, they know that every now and then there's like a smart one that pops up that's like a little more human. Uh, Usually they're either told to get in line or they get killed. So like Beck is doing some kind of restoration on them or something like that for like the rest of the night. Nina seems like her first priority when they get back is she wants to interrogate the hazmat suit that we captured. They ask Onyxgar, they ask all three of the characters I'm playing if I'm interested in the interrogation, and I'm like, nope. Like the DMZ said, nope. I'm like, that is correct. Uh, Mostly Onyxgar is the only thing that's important to him is the mission. Johan's reasoning is he's a soldier of Midgard, not a jailer. Because a few times they're describing it as torture. Of course, that was probably player talk. Oh no, actually, I think she probably did say it. Uh, and Rawright just doesn't care. Uh, but they take like they even ask him to take if there's like a torture room or something like that to the orcs, because that's where we are now. I forgot to say that. And she goes, they like her and Beck go into her room, and she ends up doing her mind meld thing on him, and is able to ask like, I don't know. It seemed like it was like 13 questions, except for there was a chance that he could pass, so not all of them she got to ask. Uh, but like I remember the first question is like, "Where'd you get the computers?" Uh, and he's like, "They were there when we got here." And in my mind, I was like, "Oh, it was a stupid question." And also, like they took his mask off, and like he had like dark colored eyes, and if I remember right, he had like a bunch of like chemicals and stuff on his waistband. And she asked like what was their main mission, was their main objective. Uh, and he says that they were trying to figure out how the recipe for gulags. Another reason why Johan wasn't really that interested, because that's what I figured they were doing. Like they're here trying to make gulags. And then like she asked who their boss is, and he says Anton Silva, which is a name Nina's heard before, and the DM asked her to roll for it. And apparently the person who ran Blue Mountain Station was supposed to be his apprentice. And I believe Blue Mountain Station was the one where they had the Abbas captured. Were experimenting on them. She then asks, like, where do they come from? He says that they come from a door that leads to their time that's in Jehovah City. She asks exactly what is the Gulag formula, and he says something about how the face dancers apparently are the ones who perfected it. And that's pretty much all she gets out of him. I believe her spells run out after that. I do say that Onyx Scar fills in the Wimix on what's going on, introduces himself. Uh, the DM told me he doesn't have names for them yet, but I do notice that the females always calling the male the Ingling or the Endling, something like. And then like the next day or later that day, Beck has at first it's just Rawrite and Nina, but then also Johan gets added on, and I guess some of Hunter's Inc. get into some kind of hybrid car, and they go to the local mall. Uh, Beck pretty much tells them that whenever we raided the bar, like they found a bunch of credit cards, and pretty much we have enough that we could pretty much buy whatever we want here. Immediately, Johan starts asking about if there's mining weapons that could get converted, or if there's mining tools that could get converted into weapons, because he needs because again, like I said, he's trying to start a mining group. Uh, each of them he wants to give a weapon to, and he's like three short. So I was hoping to fill that up. Um, and Rawrite, just like whenever he's talking about looting, he's pretty much interested in stories, movies, and music. I do also say I snatch up some instruments and stuff, mostly non-electrical, but I think I did say I pick up a few things like a keyboard. And we spend the next few however long talking about things we think our characters will be interested in. Like I know that Nina goes and gets a bunch of horror clothes. Johan, I know, gets a variety of canned beers because he's interested in recanning aluminum and creating canned beers in his world. And I know Johan gets interested in trying to recreate a bicycle. Uh, Eventually, we end up in like a sushi place or a buffet of an Asian place, and there's a sushi guy there, and Nina starts getting fascinated with it. Starts watching them and stuff, and next thing you know, she pulls out like a stack of gold, and she's like, well, what are your interest in this? If you call it, she pretty much says the name of her kingdom, which I can't think of what it's called right now. Uh, but she says like, hey, if you return to me, uh, to there, I could give you a bunch of this, and he just kind of like laughs it off. Uh, and then Beck's like, you're trying to recruit people from my world, and Johan's like, that's exactly what you're doing. This man has loved ones and stuff, and you're trying to trick him into going into your world. And Nina's like, no, that's not what I'm doing and stuff. And like Beck kind of says that like in this world we don't understand alternate worlds or other worlds. If you tell him that, he's just gonna think you're crazy or joking. Uh, and between the two of them, eventually Nina's like, "Yeah, all right. I guess it's not the best idea." And like, I even make it where like Raw writes like, "Man, she never turns it off. Like this guy's just a step away from her sticking needles in him." Uh, and then like Beck says that like we can't stay out all night because it's still hostile out, and I guess we still have stuff to do, and that's where the DM shuts it off. Uh, Future predictions. Uh, we still have that other door that Nina just found out about, but like whenever me and the DM were just bullshitted after the game, like he kind of mentioned that Nina never really told us about this door. She was the only her and Beck were the only one that were there. Uh, and I was like, yeah, you're kind of right about that. So we might not get to that, or we might not end up doing that. But the DM did say that we probably only got one more session of Brotherhood of the Lion before we switch back to the Titans for a while. And like I kind of joked that so in other words 3 or 4, and he's like, no, I don't see it lasting 3 or 4. And then when I was talking to him later, he was like, yeah, right now most of my creative mind has been on the Band of Titans. So we're probably gonna get back to that soon, which means I have to do the video of our last session of the Titans, which I might do now or I'll do tomorrow, hopefully. Uh, you want to see, check out more of my videos, and you want to know the whole story, watch all my videos, and check you later.